can you define in your own words how the patient-centered clinical trial, or the trial that is evolving much more around the patient, how that's different from the RCT that we did 15 years ago? Like, how has it substantially changed?
Yeah, so randomized controlled trials have been around forever, and they serve a really important purpose, right? They answer a very specific, precise question around how does this drug perform in certain kinds of patients under a very controlled circumstance. In those trials, the way we designed a study was to control the data and put the patient into our system of controlled structured assessments, structured data capture, structured reporting. So they came to us and were operating within our clinical trial system. That's the randomized controlled trial that's traditional. It means that we eliminate a lot of patients right up front. They don't get to be in the study, and we completely alter the experience they have of the care of their disorder, whatever that might be, because we put them in a special setting to do it. That's the traditional. So patient-centered, what do we mean by patient-centered? Well, if you flip that equation around and say I'm putting the patient right in the center of this, I want to know what this is like for the patient, how the patient is experiencing the medicine. Then the permutation in the system should be the medicine, not the system. So a patient-centered trial, the one I talked about today was the Salford study, attempted to put the patient at the center, the patient's usual care. They went to their normal doctor, their local pharmacist. They had their drug dispensed in the same way. They made phone calls at the same times that they normally would. So really pretty much we brought the trial to them rather than them moving to the trial.
I think probably one of the biggest differences is that when we previously designed clinical trials, we really thought about pure science. What is the cleanest way to assess whether a drug has efficacy and safety? Nowadays, we need to think much more about the patient's condition, what sort of patient population might be eligible for this treatment. And not only that, we need to think much more carefully about who will be enrolled and what sort of burden we're placing on them, because it doesn't do us any good to recruit patients and then have them leave because the trials are so difficult to participate in. So trying to design the trial so that they will not only select the right people, but also they will be retained in the study.
So one is the ability to capture data reliably and in real time. Why is that important? Because we have to be able to monitor not just what kind of health outcomes they're getting, but the safety as well, because these are experiments, right? So we need to be able to do that. So the first thing is about data capture, data collection, and the ability to view that data in real time. That's a really fundamental underpinning. You have to find a system that provides that. The other thing is, because you want to be non-disruptive, it has to be an integrated system. What do I mean by integrated? That you have to have the hospitals connected to the pharmacists, connected to the practitioners, connected to the nurses, so that it's all in the same system and it's a relatively closed system. The third thing is you have to have the right patients with the right diseases for what you're studying, and they have to be relatively stable. So that's one of the challenges we have sometimes when you work with a healthcare system, that maybe their turnover is too high or their patient group isn't stable enough. So you want stable practitioners with a stable group of patients who actually have the issues you're interested in studying.
There's no perfect study. I've never participated in a perfect study. I mean, you're always making trade-offs of how many procedures, how many blood draws, how many data points you want to collect. And it's always a trade-off of how much data you need and what's the most relevant data versus how much is too much of a burden on patients or costly, both in terms of time, effort, and data that just we may not use. So you really have to kind of always make trade-offs in your trials to get the, that balance.
Work with payers, groups that are going to assess value, to agree with them what the protocols might look like, and with regulatory authorities to get reassurance that that study will be validated. Because Salford had to be open label because that's how you do it without disrupting usual care. So those kinds of things are not the norm.
But you do see an opportunity in the US with that. You've talked to FDA and they're they're giving you sort of a positive feedback on that?
We haven't had that conversation yet, but I actually look forward to the day when we do, because I think there are signals from at least the very top of the FDA of having that interest. So hopefully that will give us a way in to do those kinds of studies and that kind of work in the U.S.